They call it the Motherroad, the highway that carried the Dust Bowl refugees west, that stitched together small-town diners and neon motels, and the particular American fantasy of starting over. Route 66 is not just a road, it is a mythology. And like most myths, it is most dangerous when you believe it completely. You do not have to look for trouble on this highway. You do not have to take a wrong turn, ignore a warning, or wander off the path. The trouble is built into the original alignment. It has been there since the beginning. All you have to do is follow the road. The journey starts at the corner of Michigan Avenue and Adams Street in downtown Chicago, right across from the Art Institute. Tourists in comfortable shoes, coffee carts and glass facades, and the particular warmth of a city showing you its best face. If you took a photograph here and captioned it the start of the greatest road trip in America, nobody would argue with you. You would not be wrong, you would just not be finished. 2 miles west, the route shifts onto Ogden Avenue and the postcard ends. You are now in North Lawndale, and you did not make a wrong decision to get here. You made the right one. You followed the original historic alignment exactly as it was designed, and the road has delivered you somewhere that no travel influencer is tagging for their highlight reel. North Lawndale has been economically hollowed out for decades. Abandoned buildings anchor the corners. There are no reliable grocery stores. Job opportunities are not scarce here. They are essentially absent. The violent crime rate averages 7.8 incidents per 1,000 residents. And that number does not capture the texture of what it actually feels like to move through a neighborhood where the infrastructure of daily life has been quietly removed piece by piece over 50 years until almost nothing is left. This is not a neighborhood that collapsed overnight. It unraveled slowly, the way a rope does when no one is watching and no one is replacing the fraying threads. When the industries left and the investment stopped following, North Lawndale did not make the national news. It just got quieter. And in places like this, quiet is not peace. It is the sound of absence. Experienced Route 66 drivers know this stretch well. The ones who have done the road seriously, who have read the guides and talked to the locals, they photograph the starting marker on Michigan Avenue and then get directly on Interstate 55. They skip the west side entirely and rejoin the historic alignment further out, past the point where the road stops testing you. Nobody talks about that detour much. It does not fit the mythology, but it is the first lesson the Motherroad teaches, usually before you have even cleared the city limits. America's most celebrated highway begins with a route that the people who know it best choose not to drive. The sign points west toward freedom and open sky and everything the road has always promised. And then, 2 miles later, the original alignment reminds you that promises and roads share the same flaw. They do not care what happens to you once you are on them. The Mississippi River is one of those landmarks that still does something to you. You see it from the bridge and something in you acknowledges it, the width of it, the slow brown weight of it moving south while you move west. And there on the far bank, the Gateway Arch rises out of the skyline like a promise kept. Gleaming steel, perfect geometry, 230 feet of optimism anchored in concrete. It is one of the most recognizable structures in the country, and it is the last beautiful thing you will see for a while. Because Route 66 does not go around East St. Louis, it goes through it. The original alignment crosses the river and drops you directly into one of the most economically devastated cities in the United States. There is no buffer zone. There is no gradual transition where the neighborhoods get a little rougher before they get bad. You come off the bridge and you are already there, and the distance between the arch and what surrounds you is the kind of distance that does not show up in miles. East St. Louis is not a city in decline. Decline implies a process still in motion. What happened here finished a long time ago. The population peaked at over 82,000 people in 1950. Today, barely a third of that number remains, scattered across a landscape that was built for a city nearly 3 times its current size. The factories are gone. The shops are gone. The homes that once housed entire working families now sit boarded, hollow, their windows dark and their porches sagging under the weight of decades of neglect. Weeds have taken back the lots where buildings used to stand. Nature always reclaims what people abandon. It is not picky about what it covers. Travel guides do not soften this. They tell you to stay off the streets at night, keep moving, keep your eyes on your surroundings and your hands on the wheel. Some go further, advising drivers to avoid the first alignment entirely, the one that runs along 10th Avenue toward the Municipal Bridge, because the historic Route 66 buildings that once made the detour worth taking are already gone. There is nothing left to justify the risk of the roads that remain. That detail is its own kind of eulogy. A place becomes truly lost not when it gets dangerous, but when even the reasons to go there have disappeared. When the history has been stripped away alongside the economy and the population and the infrastructure, and all that remains is the road itself cutting through the vacancy. You can stand on that bridge and look back at the arch from the East St. Louis side. It is still visible, still perfect, still catching the light. The river runs between them, wide and indifferent as it always has, and it occurs to you that monuments are built to commemorate the best version of a story, not the full one. The full one includes this: the empty lots, the weeds, the boarded windows facing a horizon that stopped delivering on its promise before most of the people still living here were born. The arch does not face east. There is a reason for that. There is a song that has been selling Route 66 for over 70 years. You know the one. It tells you to get your kicks, to wind from Chicago to LA to see Gallup, New Mexico, and a dozen other stops along the way, like destinations in a dream someone else already had for you. The song makes the road sound like a reward. In New Mexico, the road makes you reconsider that arrangement. In Albuquerque, Route 66 does not pass through a rough neighborhood. It becomes one. Central Avenue is the historic alignment through the city, and a long stretch of it runs directly through the area that locals and law enforcement have called the war zone for decades. Not a nickname borrowed from somewhere else. Not a metaphor. A name this community assigned itself because no other description was accurate enough. City officials eventually rebranded it. The International District, clean and neutral. The kind of name that looks good in a grant proposal. Albuquerque residents kept using the original. You cannot rename your way out of a reality that everyone living inside it can still see. The International District sits along Central Avenue and holds the largest concentration of homeless people in the entire state of New Mexico. Drug use and trafficking are not background problems here. They are the texture of the street. The poverty rate is among the highest in the city, and the violent crime rate follows accordingly. As recently as February of 2025, the city launched a joint law enforcement operation specifically targeting the East Central Avenue corridor. They called it Operation Route 66. It required the Bernalillo County Sheriff, the District Attorney, and the New Mexico State Police to address conditions on a stretch of highway that tourists are actively encouraged to drive for the experience. The travel advice here is short and consistent. Lock your car. Remove everything visible from the seats. If something feels wrong, trust that feeling immediately and do not wait around to confirm it. Then the road continues west and delivers you to Gallup, the city the song name checks like a highlight. The reality requires a different kind of lyric. Gallup carries a crime rate of 53 incidents per 1,000 residents. Your chance of becoming a victim of violent or property crime here is 1 in 19. More than 97% of communities in New Mexico have a lower crime rate than this city. For a traveler pulling off the road for a meal or a tank of gas, that statistic is not abstract. It is the context for every decision you make from the moment you exit. Gallup is ranked as one of the most dangerous cities in the state for years, not as a temporary spike, but as a sustained condition with deep roots in poverty and limited economic alternatives. The advice locals and travel guides offer is identical to Albuquerque, and it is identical because the lesson is the same. In New Mexico, Route 66 does not take you past the danger. It is the danger. The song gave these towns a place in the American imagination, framed them as landmarks on the road to something better. But a name in a song is not a safety guarantee. It is just a name. John Steinbeck knew something about arrival. When the Joad family finally crossed into California in the Grapes of Wrath, they came through Needles, exhausted and stripped down by the desert, carrying less than they started with in every sense that mattered. Steinbeck chose that detail deliberately. Needles is not where you begin something, it is where you survive long enough to continue. The heat here is not a weather condition, it is a geological fact, a permanent feature of the landscape as defining as the Colorado River or the red rock formations that frame the town on every side. The National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration has repeatedly recorded Needles as the site of the highest daily temperature in the United States during desert summers. The record high is 125 degrees, set in 2005. On one night in July of 2006, the temperature at 6 in the morning was 100 degrees. Not the high for the day, the overnight low. On a single day in August of 2012, rain fell here at an air temperature of 115 degrees, setting a record for the hottest rainfall in recorded world history. These are not numbers. They are a warning printed directly into the climate. The stretch of Route 66 that runs west out of Needles through the Mojave toward Barstow covers roughly 250 miles of some of the most exposed highway in the country. No shade, no services for long intervals. No margin for mechanical failure or an empty fuel gauge. In winter, you can drive it and feel its beauty without consequence. In summer, running low on gas or breaking down is not an inconvenience. It is a life-threatening situation, and the desert does not adjust its temperature because you were not expecting it to matter. 30 miles east of Flagstaff, the road passes through what is left of Two Guns, Arizona. And what is left is the part of the story everyone forgets to include when they describe it as a fascinating stop. Two Guns appears on Route 66 itineraries as a place worth seeing. The crumbling stone buildings, the old concrete arch bridge over Canyon Diablo, the ruins of the Apache Death Cave. Photographed in the right light at the right angle, it looks like atmosphere. It looks like history preserved in amber. What the photographs do not show is the broken glass, the exposed nails, the sharp limestone edges, and the rattlesnakes that move through the site without the inconvenience of knowing you are there. The footbridge over the Death Cave is in disrepair. The cave itself risks collapse. There is no cell service, no caretaker, and no services of any kind. The nearest help is in Flagstaff or Winslow, and the ownership of the property exists in legal ambiguities that would not protect you if something went wrong inside it. Travel guides suggest visiting at sunrise or sunset for photographs and leaving before dark. Two Guns looks fascinating in daylight and becomes genuinely dangerous the moment the light fails. Which is also, if you have been paying attention, a perfect description of the road itself. Route 66 is not a highway, it is a receipt. Every hollow block in East St. Louis, every floodlit corner in Albuquerque, every crumbling wall in Two Guns, is proof that the dream had terms and conditions nobody printed on the postcard. This road was built on the promise of movement, of reinvention, of somewhere better waiting just ahead. What it actually maps is everything America built, abandoned, and left for the next traveler to discover alone. It is still one of the greatest roads our country has ever built, and you should drive it. Just know what road you are actually on. Subscribe, and see you in the next video.